you look at any good solopreneur's webpage, it should look kind of like that.
Right.
Like, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is how I do it, these are examples of when I've done it before, and here's an offer for how I can provide value to you up front to demonstrate that I can do this for you as well.
Today I'm talking to Ronan, a Lisbon-based career coach who helps you surface your best skills and build a strong personal brand. Let's jump in.
What's the most common challenges that your digital nomad clients are facing?
Yeah, I think a big one is always being able to create your personal brand. I think that's a huge one. When you think about the core of who you are as a professional, even as a on a personal level, understanding what your personal brand is, who you are, what's important to you, what you offer, what your skills are, what your strengths are, what your achievements are, what the core problems you solve are. When you put all those different points together, all those different facets of you as a person and as a professional, then we start to see your personal brand. And when we know what your personal brand is, we can start to understand and appreciate your highest and best value, right? And when someone says, I don't know what I want to do, it's like, well, fair enough, you don't know what you want to do, but what about tapping into your highest and best value first? Or what about reflecting on your highest and best value to see if that is something that would be interesting? Because a lot of people feel really good when they feel like they're absolutely killing something, right? Mm-hmm. Like when they're doing a really good job, a lot of people feel great about themselves, they're having a good time. And that's because, firstly, they've got the skills there, maybe they've also got the additional natural aptitude for it as well. And those types of things give people a slight advantage or a big advantage. And that allows them to really enjoy what they're doing. And then they start to feel, well, this comes natural, this comes easy to me. So when you help people tap into their personal brand, understanding what they're going to offer then, and understanding how they're going to achieve their highest and best value, all those stuff come next, and it's like a natural flow or a natural sequence. So I think that's a challenge because...
And you help them clarify this by asking a lot of questions.
Exactly.
If I understand your approach.
Exactly. So it can be challenging to do it because we don't often sit down and say, well, who am I? What are my strengths? What do I do well? What are my achievements? What's a complex problem I can solve where someone's going to give me money for? We don't often say that. And so, if you ask anyone that on the street, if you ask them this at a cafe or a restaurant or in a networking event, say, well, what do you do? A lot of people find that very difficult to explain. But what I do is I sit down with people and say, well, let's talk about your transferable skills. And either we look through their profile or their CV and we figure out and we create an inventory of their transferable skills. Mm-hmm. And now they might list 5, they might list 6, 7, and so on. And that's fine. But then it's a case of, well, what are your top 2 or 3 transferable skills, right? What do you enjoy the most? What do you think you can do the best? And then when we have those top 2 or 3, now we've got a good idea of how your brand is going to look from there on. Because typically you want the rest of the personal brand to reflect those top skills so that it all seems consistent. You don't want to say, well, these are my skills, but then I do this random thing over here and I do this random thing over there. That's inconsistent. You want to try to keep it consistent so that the narrative stays together.
Right.
So if someone is a project manager, you want to be able to say, well, probably you're good at managing deadlines, probably you're good at managing costs, probably you're good at delegating tasks to team members. You want to keep all those things consistent as part of that one personal brand. And so when you do that exercise with people and you put all that together, that's the sort of clarity they get that helps them have confidence and clarity and direction going forward. Do you follow me?
Yeah, I certainly do. It sounds really valuable.
Super
helpful.
I can talk about that all day. I have a full YouTube channel on this stuff.
Yeah, so, I know you do. I know you do. We will definitely link to your channel in the description here, because you're providing a lot of value, man. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I tried to do. I tried to provide the value up front. I tried to keep it concise and just get direct to the point. I try not to have too much
fluff.
Too much fluff in there. So there's like when you go through it though, like let's say if somebody hears this conversation, like that's cool, I know what my transferable skills are, and they might talk about 2 or 3. They might say, yeah, do a bit of project management, or I might do a little bit of administration, maybe I do coordination, maybe I do a bit of leadership, or that's fine. But really the secret to it, to really feeling it deep, is that you don't just give it a label, although that's a great start, but you also outline not just what you do, but how you do it. So if someone said I do project management or communications, say, well, what are the 3 or 4 steps you go through in order to deliver that skill? Like, what's the first thing you do? What's the second thing you do? What's the third thing? What's the fourth thing? And then after that, can you give me some examples to back up that? And so if someone goes from thinking, I don't know what I do, I don't really know why somebody would hire me or what sort of, value I could provide as a solopreneur, as an employee, or as a business. You go from like no clarity to going project management, then you go, well, here's the structure for how I deliver that. So then going, well, here's an example of 3 times I've done it before. And then you go to having an offer. And so now you've built this
Proof of concept.
This proof of concept. You've built this like service offering pretty much. And if you look at any good solopreneur's webpage, it should look kind of like that.
Right.
Like, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is how I do it, these are examples of when I've done it before, and here's an offer for how I can provide value to you up front to demonstrate that I can do this for you as well.
Fantastic advice. What would you say is the USP for a mastermind? Why should anyone, like an entrepreneur, a digital nomad, join a mastermind, for example?
Yeah, I think the beauty of being an entrepreneur or being a remote worker or being a digital nomad is that you have that remote side, but then also the challenge is that you're remote and you can be disconnected and you can be working in isolation a lot of the time, which means you don't get the synergy of many different people giving you perspectives. But when you come to a mastermind, firstly you get support, you get honest feedback, right? Because that's what we're there for. We're there to give you honest feedback. We're there to challenge you if it doesn't make sense. And not everyone has that, especially, if your friends or your family are not necessarily business orientated, or, they're supportive, but maybe they're just not as interested, or maybe they just don't know the sort of questions or the sort of ideas to be sharing with you. I think that's where a mastermind comes in. A structured weekly accountability check-in where you get honest feedback, you get support, and you get to build momentum. And I think that's huge, so you're continuously checking in with the person on their goals, and then they're asked not just to receive, but also to give their expertise as well. So you're also placing yourself in a position of credibility and authority as well, and you're building really strong connections with other people who are like-minded and in a similar position in their careers.
Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other non-negotiable daily routines or tools or systems?
I mean, a non-negotiable for me is journaling. And journaling for me is like, it's personal. It's personal where I'm writing down what my concerns are, what my fears are, what my hopes and aspirations are, what my vision is. And it's just that constant refining of where I want to go, what I want to achieve. And also helps me to clarify any challenges that I have or any issues that are coming up, so I can deal with them in a very pragmatic way. And then professionally, writing has always helped me clarify exactly the outcomes that people could get, exactly what my service entails, exactly the points I'm trying to make either in a session or in marketing material. So for me, writing is like an absolute core, fundamental part of my day, just for clarity, for direction, for...
In the morning or in the evening?
Throughout the day.
Throughout the day. You're journaling?
I journal a little bit in the morning just to kind of put down what's on my mind. Which includes a to-do list and prioritization. But then throughout the day I'm writing to give myself that continuous feedback and to help me clarify exactly what my thinking is. Because I find when I think something and when I'm trying to work out a problem, it's nowhere near the same as when I write it down. You just get a totally different level of clarity, because it forces you to commit to writing exactly what the issue is and where you're getting stuck, and even mapping it out.
You take these abstract thoughts and clarify them on paper, basically, too.
Exactly. Or another example, which I love, you're probably familiar with Tim Ferriss. A lot of people will be familiar with his fear-setting exercise. It's like when you're worried about something, what exactly are you worried about? What exactly are you fearful of? And you just take a moment and you write it down. Okay, that's what I'm worried about. Okay, how would you go about preventing that from happening? That's step 2. So you go, okay, I'm worried about X, Y, Z. Here's how I prevent that from happening. And then what would you do even if it did happen? And then you make a note of that as well. And then you've got all 3. And it's like just that process of writing down what your fears or your worries or your concerns are, how you would prevent them and how you would repair them. Those 3 steps, they just give you the clarity that, 5 minutes later, you're already feeling better. You're already feeling more confident. And you're realizing that these steps weren't so, overwhelming after all.
After all.
But you've probably come across the wheel of life before,
Yep.
have you? Yeah.
I've done the exercise.
Yeah, so the wheel of life, you've got 8 or 9 areas. You've got time, you've got your finances, you've got your career, you've got your health, your personal life, your contribution or your spiritual life. You could talk about your emotional life as well. You've got these different areas. And for anyone who hasn't done it before, if you just take a moment to write down a couple of points about, what do you want in each of those areas. It only needs to be 2 or 3 points, but it starts to give you some clarity along all the different facets. Because what's the alternative? Is you've no direction, you've no clarity, or that you just have loads of clarity in one area, like you know what you want for your personal life, but you don't know what you want for your career. People say, well, career's not that important. It's like, well, it's about 80,000 hours of your life, or 40 hours a week, so it's a chunk of time.
Yeah.
So, or I don't really care about this other area like my time management or my finances. It's like, well, if you don't, that's going to come back to haunt you at some point.
Sure.
Whereas,
So there needs to be a balance here.
do
you use this exercise often?
yeah, so I'm looking at it every week. I'm looking at these different areas and I'm checking in. I'm saying, well, do I have that one where I want it?
Calibrating as you go?
Yeah, you're just always calibrating, you're always checking in. It's an awareness thing, right? And because we all get hit with different challenges at different times, and you're gonna be knocked out. Like that's a natural part of it. But it's being able to go back and recalibrate then every time you do get knocked out, so that you don't get lost along the way, and you wake up, in retirement, and you're like, where did all that time go?
100%. Fantastic how on point you are, so to say, with your life. I mean, it's very inspiring. I think I hope other people will get a lot of inspiration as well, following along here.
Yeah, well, it doesn't mean I don't have challenges. It just means I've got this, let's say, template for checking in with myself, so I make sure I stay on track as much as possible.
Do you print this out, or can you do them online, or how do you, like, practically?
For me, this type of stuff, the simpler the better.
Yeah.
If it's simple, if it's easily accessible, it's more in your awareness. So for me, that's just the Notes app on my phone.
Okay.
I just open, it's one of the first one that opens when I open the Notes app. It's pinned right at the top, and I can just go in there and see, okay, how am I doing with my career? How am I doing with my personal life, my relationships, my finance, my emotional life, my
Do you
health
put a
and
number
fitness?
there, or you're actually writing text down?
So I'm writing text down. So let's say for personal, or let's say for health, that would be, going to the gym 3-4 times a week. That would be one of the things that I write down there. For a career, to have a platform that I can scale, where I can impact an infinite amount of people. It's just writing down these like clear goals that make up your overall vision across all the different facets of your life, that you can continuously and easily check in with to make sure that you're staying on track. And like, part of that is that you're going to tweak it, you're going to change it, but you're doing it from a very aware and conscious place.
Yeah.
Compared to life just dragging you around and you're not really sure which way you're going. And like that all comes down, and that all comes back to a backdrop of understanding what your values are. Like, where do you get those things that you write down? Well, you get them from your values, because your values tell you what's important to you, right? And this is always a challenge people have when they don't understand their values. They've got a lot of conflict internally, right? If you think about the difference between, oh, I want to go out late and I want to party and I want to spend loads of money, versus I want to get up early, I want to read, I want to go for a walk, I want to be healthy, or go to the gym, whatever it is, right? If you want to do both of those things, you've got a values conflict, right? Now, I don't mean once a week or once a month when you go and you celebrate with your friends. I mean, if you're doing that every day, but also you want to get up every day and you want to get cracking with your goals and your health and fitness and all those other things you want to do. If you're trying to do both of those, you've got a values conflict.
Exactly. So you have to be clear on your values and where you're actually heading in life.
Exactly. Whereas the person who's clear, let's say if someone's clear, look, I want to be healthy, and you say, well, what does that mean for you? And they'll say, well, it means that I'm in good shape. And you're like, well, what does that mean? And they'll say, well, it means I'm physically in good shape. And you say, well, what are the habits? Like, what are the action steps that will lead to that?
Right.
And then you get to some real clarity.
The more fine-tuned you can be, the better. Like, I want a six-pack. Okay, then you need to go even deeper, and
Exactly.
like the macros I need to.
Like if I asked you now, What does it mean to you to be healthy?
Clarity of thoughts, no brain fog, feeling energized.
And for you to be energized, what has to happen? Just to take one example from what you've said.
Physical exercise.
And for you to do physical exercise on a weekly basis, what would that look like?
Jogging 3-4 times a week, gym 2-3 times a week. Yeah.
And if you're jogging, how long would that be for a jog? Is 5 minutes okay? Is 10 minutes okay? Is 20 minutes okay?
For me personally, I usually go for like 30 to 60 minutes.
Yeah, super. So then we go from this top value of health to what that means for you, which is your rules, right? We all have our own rules for what that means. And so for you, it's like 3 or 4 times a week. And then to a very specific habit that you can implement.
Right.
And now you've put all the pieces together from your values all the way to your day-to-day habits. So then when you have the decision, do I stay out and party until 4 a.m.?
Yeah.
Or do I get up and I go for my job?
Totally.
And then your decisions are crystal clear.
Exactly. And this you can apply to all areas in life.
Yeah.
So health, fitness, business, relationships. The more clarity, the better, basically.
Exactly. And when you look at people who are super successful, look at the clarity and the decisiveness that they have.
Yeah.
In fact,
there's no vagueness whatsoever.
There's no vagueness because they know what they're about, because they made all these decisions and they buried them super deep inside.
Yeah.
And so when you ask them, are you going to do this or this, they know exactly what the answer is.
100%.
And it's actually, if you look at the top 4 behaviors of CEOs, this is what the researchers come back with as well.
Okay.
It's decisiveness. Decisiveness was number 1. They have to be decisive if they're going to be a top CEO.
Yeah. What would you say to your 20-year-old self?
Oh, I think I would say make a plan. I would say sit down and write out what you want, write out what your goals are, and create a vision for yourself. And I know that can be difficult for people because they'll say, well, I would do that if I knew what I wanted. But it's just like that process of getting started to writing out what a vision is. Like, what does your ideal day look like? What does your ideal life look like? Your ideal career look like? That process is you becoming aware and you giving yourself feedback about what's important to you. And then when you go and you experience stuff and you bump into the world and you bump into difficult jobs and difficult situations, it helps you refine that as you go, because then you can now update your goals, you can update your plan and make it closer to what you actually want. But otherwise, you know, your direction is just moving by chance. It's aimless. And you're just hoping you bump into a good scenario.
No. You need that goal.
And so then, like,
vision.
Yeah, like, and think about it. You're creating this very short feedback loop where you're continuously getting feedback from yourself, and you're updating and reiterating your plan. I think that's really what I wish I had done when I was in my 20s, because I did feel aimless in my early 20s. I did feel like I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then I just took a couple of jobs just to do something, just to get paid. But it was only when I sat down and I really thought what I wanted to do and started to work it out. And then once you do that, you can start like tweaking it as you go, which I think is the only thing that really makes sense, because when you've got such a rapidly changing world,
you can't be too rigid.
What would be the point of writing out a 20-year plan? It's like, we don't know what's going to happen next year.
Exactly.
We've got AI, we've got robotics, we've got like the metaverse, we've got all these crazy things happening technologically. So I think having a general vision and adapting it as you go and keeping a close feedback loop, they're some of the best nuggets of advice.
For sure. Not flip-flopping too much. I mean, that if I look at my life, when I succeed, that's when I just stay with something for a long, long time. That's when I succeed. I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You cannot be,
I mean,
switching too often.
How can you succeed in anything if you don't have consistency?
Yeah.
How can you succeed with your physical health, with a relationship, with a career, with a field, if you're not consistent, because you don't have enough time to go deep? And it's also interesting, when people go deeper in one area, whether it's their physical health, or whether they go deeper in a relationship, or whether they go deeper in their career, what do you think? Do they typically find they enjoy that more, or enjoy it less?
More.
They enjoy it more.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Enjoy it more. When you go deeper, you get to see all of the beauty of that thing, and so you get to enjoy it more.
Yeah. The better you get at things, the more you enjoy it. That's just how it is, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you get into a career and you start to learn what works and what doesn't work, and this example and that example and this tool and that tool and this, key person and that stakeholder and so on, then you get to see how everything works. You get to understand it more deeply, and then when you understand it more deeply, you get more returns. You get to enjoy it more, and then you just build momentum there.
Yeah.
Of course, somebody could always say, "Oh, well, what if I totally hate the thing?" Well, yeah, there's always an exception. You can totally hate something, and that doesn't make sense. But you're talking about not just going from one thing to another thing to another thing, trying to find that perfect gold nugget, as opposed to seeing how can I embrace this one area and go as deep as possible in that area.
Right. That's kind of the key to success.
I think so. I think if you don't give yourself a chance to really understand something very deeply and go, and see everything it has to offer, how are you really going to know?
Right.
There's lots of different models you can think. You can also think about your needs and your values and your top priorities.
It's like an umbrella thing, because I feel that you have this umbrella, career coach,
Yeah.
and then you have multiple areas. So you have your YouTube channel, you have a LinkedIn page, you have a
exactly.
website, you have one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, so you get to play once you're inside. You get to do all these different things. Whereas,
So it's not, you don't have to limit yourself just because you're going deep on something. You can still,
yeah, exactly.
if you see what I mean.
Because the opposite is you stay on the outside and you think, well, I'll start a YouTube channel if I know what it is, compared to just starting it and then getting into it even more.
Exactly. Taking action is the way to go.
Like one of the things people really struggle with is they keep on they're like trying to find the perfect topic. It's like, what do I like? Do I like biology? Do I like chemistry? Do I like finance? Do I like media? Do I like PR? Do I like accounting? Do I like consultancy? They're looking for all the different topics, right? But that's only one way to look at it. Let's call that the content, right? Do I like financial content? Do I like software content? Do I like media content? Like, that's all the different types of content. But if you sit down and you listen to people, like I have for 10 years, the process of what they do is a much better predictor of their career satisfaction compared to the topic that they're working in. And when I say the process, I mean how they do it, the transferable skills they use on a day-to-day basis, the environment they work in.
The topic is like secondary.
The topic is secondary.
The process is
Absolutely.
Is the key.
And I can demonstrate that. Like, imagine somebody thinks, well, I want to be a novelist. I want to write a book. I've always been a good writer. I've been a good writer in school, and this is my passion. Okay, great, write a book. But what if this person has to write a book in the attic of their parents' house, and they have no salary, and they have to wait 2 or 3 years while this happens? Now, they might be perfectly happy doing that, but a lot of people won't. A lot of people will feel they need more connection. They'll feel they want more social life. They'll feel that their needs in general won't be met. So, a lot of people, they're going to enjoy the environment and the transferable nature of what they're doing a lot more. Whereas if you say, let's say you don't like your job as a data scientist in this company over here. And I'll say to them, well, why don't you like that? And they'll say, well, we have these stupid meetings at 8 a.m. every morning, and my boss is micromanaging me, and the company is growing fast and we don't have a lot of structures. And then you have to take a step back and say, well, did that person say they don't like anything about data science? Or did they say they don't like the environment that they're in?
Right.
The company, the micromanaging, and the lack of structure, and so on.
Exactly. You have the distinction there.
So when you separate both of those, you say, well, okay, if you could get a company that was supportive, that had structure, basically that met those needs that you're talking about aren't being met at the moment, would you be open to still being a data scientist? And often people say they would.
Wow.
So it's like, not just thinking about the content, because when you grow up and you watch videos online and they say, well, find what your passion is and follow your passion, that's usually like saying, like if your passion is football, if your passion is music, or if your passion is like video creation, or if your passion is, science, whatever, follow that. But you should also think about how you go about doing it, the process you go through, because that's the process and the environment are really strong predictors of your happiness and satisfaction over a long period of time. And no one really talks about that.
It's such a profound point, and I can apply it to my own career and the way I've been going about it. Because as a web engineer, software engineer, like you can choose so many routes. Like you can be in a big company, huge company, very corporate environment, or you can be in a small startup, and there, you know, it's going to be vastly different.
Night and day.
Night and day, complete night and day.
Yeah.
Or you can be a freelancer, solopreneur, whatever.
I mean, think about what you're doing now. You're talking about nomad lifestyle, and like,
Yeah.
that's all about the environment, and that's all about the process around what you're doing. And then the content of what a lot of people are doing is secondary,
Totally.
right? Because the environment is so good. But if you take all those people that you've interviewed, and you put them in a boring office in a city they don't want to be in,
Yeah.
are they still full of joy?
What a profound insight I got now. And that's why I left my corporate work in Stockholm way back when and went abroad. I don't know if I even would have been able to do what I do still,
Right.
if I've been still in that context.
Right.
Super interesting.
And so imagine if somebody came to you and said, but I thought you liked being a software developer, software engineer. And then in your head you're thinking, well, yeah, I didn't like it. But then someone has to come to you and say, well, is it the software development that you didn't like, or was it the environment that you didn't like?
Profound.
And you're going to get a totally different answer, right?
Such an important question to ask yourself.
Well, yeah, because also think, you know, we have this like innate need to feel consistent. So if I say I didn't like my job, and you're like in my family or you're one of my friends, and then you'll say you don't like your job, okay, so then why are you going for that job again? That's stupid. And you'll say, well, yeah, well, of course I'm not going to go for a software engineering job again. Because you want to feel consistent with what you've said before.
Sure.
So then people can end up doubling down and saying, no, I definitely don't want to do that thing again.
So it's really important questions to ask yourself when you're making career choices. Like, how do I want to engineer my life, basically? Like, what do I want my days to look like?
Exactly. What you want your day, your environment to look like? What skills do you want to be using?
Yeah.
And sure, you can talk about the content you want to work on as well. That's important. But it's I suppose it's really taking a holistic view.
Yeah.
Of what you want.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're into, you and me, and you know, designing our lives, I guess, and the audience for that matter. Like, we all want to design the most exciting and joyful lifestyle, I suppose. That's the key. Like, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're all trying to figure out.
What do you think is the biggest challenge people have in designing?
I think it's clarity, to be honest. What we've been talking about, like just defining, getting those vague thoughts out, and defining it. Like, how do my days to actually look like? What do I need to feel fulfilled?
Yeah.
Because there's so much noise from society these days, like what a successful life is supposed to look like on Instagram, social media, whatever. And it's so easy to get caught up in that. I've been caught up in it, and you know, and like we discussed off camera, like I just realized that I don't need that much money. I don't need that. I don't need all this stuff, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's much more about what I'm actually doing. When I'm working on projects I'm passionate about, I feel joy, you know. So.
And you're doing it on your own terms.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a big difference, right? And so it's a case of, you know, being able to sit down and have a blueprint for helping you clarify what's important to you and how you make those decisions. So when I talk to people and they say, well, I want to try X, Y, Z, I want to try this project or that project, I want to know, are their needs going to be met well on an ongoing basis? So if someone says, I want to start a business, I want to know, well, is your need for certainty going to be met? If someone says, I want to go travel the world and meet loads of new people, I say, that's wonderful. Is your need for connection going to be met? I know your need for meeting a lot of people is going to be met, but let's call that variety. You know, you're meeting lots of people, that's lots of variety. But connection is different because connection is deeper.
Right.
Connection is like that meaningful connection, right? You know, because we all know that expression, you know, you can be at a party and you can feel lonely. You know, if you're going to work in a new company, is your need for growth going to be met? Or are you just going to go from feeling like you're not growing here to feel like you're not growing over there? And it's after the first 3 months when you realize where everything is and where the bathrooms are, now you feel like you're not growing anymore, right? So it's understanding the underlying needs that we all have, and then mapping that forward and seeing, well, are they going to be met, and then matching those with your values. And so when you're doing this, like you're writing all these things down, it's like your own playbook. It's like your playbook for your life, right? It's like, these are my rules, these are my values, these are my needs, this is my vision, and then you know what you're about because you've written it down, right? And it's not going to be perfect the first time, but you're going to iterate, you're going to make it better each time.
Totally. I think that's fantastic advice, and it's been extremely valuable. I think we could sit here another hour or
We
two.
could, but we won't.
Yeah, I won't keep you all night.
No, it's fine, it's fine.
So.
But great questions, yeah. I mean, we could go deeper on all those things because, yeah, they do.
They are.
People will have questions about them, and they're all deep topics. But I think it comes back to, just to circle back and maybe wrap up on that one final thing, which is, it's really about writing down what you want. You open that notes application on your phone or your computer, write down what you need, write down what you value or what's important to you, write down what your goals are, what your vision is going forward across the different elements of your life. And then you've got some structure, and you can improve it as you go, you can tweak it as you go. But if you start there, you'll give yourself a really good chance to figure it out and get some clarity.
Fantastic advice, man. People can always do one-on-ones with you and join our mastermind.
Join the mastermind, book a discovery call. I have loads of resources and workbooks and stuff people can download as well, so it's all there. Great, thanks so much. Thanks for the chat.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate it.
Job done.
Job well done.